Thank you. Right, this is also done. Good evening to all of you. So, in the previous session yesterday, there is a lot of disturbance because of the weather conditions as well as in the problem of audibility. And I request all the participants also to be actively participate in the class so that you can better understand about the various concepts. Straight away, with all that aspects, let us go back to the yesterday PPT and we will continue. And this class we will complete this block totally. So let me share the screen right now. So I hope you are able to see the screen, right? And then, so, right, let us proceed further. In the yesterday's class, already we have discussed about what are the various economic factors that are influencing the entrepreneur. Then coming to the non-economic factors, this achievement, etc., is also completed. Then motivation. What are the motives that promote an entrepreneur? What are the various motives that promote an entrepreneur to become a good entrepreneur? That is called as managing entrepreneurs, whose chief motive is security. This concept we have discussed. And then controlling of entrepreneurs, controlling those who wants to have the control mechanism first. They want to have an enterprise which is in their hands so that they want to control. Then coming to the social factors, social norms and role models, attitude and of the society, marginality, education, backup, etc. These are the various factors that it is covering about the social factors towards entrepreneurship. Then out of this, I think up to role models and social pressure, social mobility, family background, education, these are covered. Then this at this point we struck up yesterday cultural factors. If the culture is economically and monetarily oriented, entrepreneurship would become applauded and praised, and wealth accumulation as a way of life would be appreciated. So the culture factor, that is economically cultural factors. So basically money minded, money oriented, and entrepreneur will give a get a great opportunity, and definitely wealth creation, wealth accumulation will become an important factor. Whenever these factors are recognized by the society or recognized in the culture of the society, then definitely they will have overall appreciation in the process of entrepreneurial development. So now, actually, I want to tell you about this one. These are various types of factors which are influencing the entrepreneurial development. So now let us go quickly back into that. One is a non-economic factors, land, labor, capital, and all. Then non-economic factors, out of the achievement factors. Then coming to that withdrawal, social status, etc. Then motive. Then these are all non-economic factors. Out of that, what we have to understand is that so these are the various factors which we psychologically they are very important. Psychological, social, cultural. I request all the students to please note that this is the longest essay question. Try to minimize your answer. What are all the points that are there in that? So all the factors you cannot explain in a very short span of time. So all the important points you make out, and out of that you try to pick up the economical out of non-economical factors one, non-economical factors out of the psychological factors, then social factors, then cultural factors. Briefly, you side heading wise, point wise, you go on with that explanation aspect. So explain the various factors influencing the entrepreneurship development. That question is over for you now. Explain the problems of entrepreneurship. What are the various problems that an entrepreneur face during the period of managing the enterprise? Just 1 second. One, no, this, thank you. So whenever
Oh, we
Now, what are the various problems that the entrepreneur face? So, choice of ideology, these are internal problems what the entrepreneur basically face. So, first one is choice of idea must be feasible. What to understand about this one? Choice of idea that is very, very feasible. So, whatever the idea you are choosing, that must fit to the present situation, then only it is viable. Whatever the aspect or whatever the problem you are taking, whatever the product you are taking, that must be suitable for the purpose of taking good production process and so on and so forth. So what we have to understand here is that whenever we are taking one ideology, that is, whenever we are choosing one idea, it has to be feasibility. So what are types of feasibility? I hope you are able to see the slide. Once again, please confirm, one of you. Please, 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 please. Are you able to see the slide?
Sir, we can see your screen clear, sir.
Only?
We can see your screen clearly, sir.
Yeah, I am marking now, na, that also you are able to see, right? Right. Choice of ideology must be feasible. There are basically how many types of feasibilities are there? One is economic feasibility, technical feasibility, market feasibility, and so on. So marketing feasibility means you must be able to sell the product in the market. So financial feasibility means you must be able to afford to put it in the production process. Then technical feasibility means you must be able to produce it with good technological aspects. These are various aspects that you have to check it before the idea is to be before the idea is going to be converted into the real production process. Then second problem is that if any one of these is lacking, if idea is not feasible, then you have to drop, but you should not go further. Then second one is absence of lack of proper managerial skills. This is nowadays it is not actually a problem because specialized managers are there, specialized skills employees are readily available. But unless the owner or unless the proprietor of the business is not having any sort of knowledge about managerial skills, he may not be able to enjoy the skills of that. So then new entrepreneurs may face a lack of technical know-how. Sometimes in small business enterprises, they may not be able to have a knowledge about the technical know-how and how to understand what is technical know-how. That means how the product is manufactured, what type of technology is used, and what is the relation between technical components to its final output, and all that he must be able to he must have a understanding over that. So location disadvantage might lead to the problems in the entrepreneurship. If the location does not support the entrepreneur, then he cannot become problem. Then he cannot become successful in the and in his business aspect. So the location also should support. That is important. So when he is doing some sort of business, that location of that particular business should be appropriate. Then only it is easy. Then outdated production process also hamper the growth of enterprise. So outdated production process, if you are still depending on the manual production process, your production quantity will be limited, and finally it leads to the cost increase and it cannot be profitable to the entrepreneur. That is also another problem. High cost of input, particularly in case of raw material. If the raw material is high cost, if he is using all qualitative material, right, it is 100% correct. But the cost also must be able to support it by the price of the product. Whenever you are using high cost of input material, definitely the cost will increase. As a result of the price also will increase. Whether the price of the product is sustainable or not, that is very, very important. Then when the break-even point is too high, what is the break-even point concept? I know you will be able to, already you are, sorry, I hope you know the break-even point concept. No profit, no loss zone. How much units you must be able to sell for the purpose of recovering his total cost. That is the point. The point where the total revenue is equivalent to total cost. For a manufacturer, that is known as break-even point. If your break-even point is too high, that means whenever the total cost is too high, you must be able to sell that much of quantity of goods at a very high price, or at least at a high quantity. If your break-even point is too high, the entrepreneur cannot reach to that particular level then finally he will incur the losses, which is a demotivating factor for him. Next, inappropriate production mix. So production mix is a combination of various products what he is selling. So what type of products he is producing, what are the various types of products, and finally that is should be appropriate for the market, appropriate for the customer, and so on. Then poor quality control. If the quality is not appropriately controlled, then it leads to the damage of the goodwill, and finally the customer will reject your product. Poor capacity utilization. This is also another important problem actually. Poor capacity utilization is a major important poor capacity utilization is the major important factor which is really damaging now most of the organizations. The reason is that they are installing highly sophisticated machines which cannot be utilized in a proper sequence. And finally, at the moment of time, if the machine cost is very high, the bank loans and the amount whatever they get, all this will be. Just 1 second. Yes, group message. Unfortunately, I was added with another group and it is creating a lot of disturbance. What is going on? So then finally, inappropriate production mix, poor capacity utilization. Installing the machine is not only sufficient. You must be able to use that machine up to the mark. Otherwise, your overhead cost will become, and finally, you will be at loss. High wastage, it is known to you. Lack of professionalism. Unless you are a professional manager, the cost will be high, wastage will be high, and you will not be able to reap the benefits of the project. Then these are the various internal problems. What an entrepreneur will face. So internal problems basically connected with the analysis of the project or analysis of the product what you are going to design. So first is feasibility, next is managerial capacity, then problems with the materials and all, then cost aspect, then production, control, capacity planning and all. So every aspect where the professionalism is included, then it will become an advantage. చిన్న మాట చెప్తానండి, wherever you are appointing a professional manager, say production manager is efficient, then the cost will become lower. If you are appointing a professional manager for sales, he will be able to make a better sales that will increase the revenue aspect better. Like that, you have to make a good aspect in the various each and every aspect of the business. You must be able to make out good for the business. Then only it will be a successful entrepreneur, right? These are the important elements which are talking about problems of entrepreneur. Then external problems of entrepreneur are very high. So external problems are very typical also, which are not in the control of the entrepreneur. So entrepreneur, he himself cannot make a good choice about these aspects. Next. Change of local infrastructure. Change of local infrastructure. That is also an important area where to be considered about this one. Then local infrastructure facilities must be supporting towards the entrepreneurial growth and changes to the laws. Various new amendments will come to the laws, including Companies Act also will get changed so many times. then all the problems, all the changes will bring out the problems to the entrepreneur. Change in the trends and technology. So nowadays technology is very dynamic, and the trends of the customers also are going rapidly changing, that results into the process. Recession basically applies to all the business customers, not only the software aspect. So whenever the recession is there, economic development also will be slow, and then it cannot be run successfully. Any business cannot be run successfully. The import and exports also will influence the entrepreneurial capacities, and how much imports are accepted, how much quantity of the goods that can be exported. These are basically dependent on the government policy. They will affect the entrepreneurial growth. Then political instability. This is mostly there in the common nature in almost all the countries. Politically, if the government is unstable, when the government is unstable, then automatically the entrepreneurs will suffer, because any change in the governmental policy, that will badly affect the business concerns. Say, for example, tax laws. When the company taxation, so if the taxes increase, automatically the entrepreneurs will lose a lot of money. And if the imports are banned, then also the problem. Export restrictions, then also it will get affected. Like that, if a political situation is unstable, then finally the entrepreneur is the person who is going to first get affected. So that is the reason why whenever there is election moment, our stock markets always will show a downward trend. Whenever there is safe position, then again they will go on and go. And lastly, balance of payments. Whenever the balance, what is the meaning of balance of payments is the net amount of foreign exchange that is available. That whenever an entrepreneur wants to import certain type of raw material, then the restrictions from these governmental organizations also will take a lot of problem on that. So government restrictions also will be payments towards foreign currency, payments in the foreign currency towards the foreign country, then it will become a problem. So mostly these are the various important external problems that an entrepreneur will suffer. Then explain the various problems of entrepreneurship. Explain the various problems of entrepreneur. Both internal and external problems you must be able to explain. So in the internal problems, you make these side headings and elaborate one by one line these aspects into 1, 2, 3 lines, and you go on with that carrying explanation of the each and every side heading. Okay, I hope you are able to understand this. Yes, shall I proceed to this one? Are you able to follow, or any doubts you are having? Alright? So in this two, so in the small case study is here in the book only, it is given the textbook only. Sanjeev was developing a business plan for the organization. So I request all the students to put a concentration over this one, because normally the case study pattern will be there in the examination question paper. Actually, what is the case study? Can anyone? What is your opinion on case study? How it will be, what it will be, what is expected to do? Contribute. What a student is expected to do in the case of case study? Share some idea from you also. Eleven students are there, participants. At least one. What do you feel about this case study? Case study basically is specialized about one specific area or one specific concentration on one particular topic. Then on the basis of that, a practical application will be given to you. Out of that, what are the facts of the case that you have to develop and understand? So what is exactly the given topic is related to what is your content? That is called content analysis. Whenever you are identifying the topic, to what topic it is related to your book. So in this given case study, say for example, here while working with the financial plan, he realized that financial requirements will be for the fixed assets and their installations, preliminary expenses, working capital and all. So here what you have to understand about this one, the financial planning, how to analyze the sources of finance. So this topic is related to the previous topics, what we have, this topic is basically related to your financial planning. So he has developed a business plan for the organization. While working on financial plan, he realized that his financial requirements will be, here you can understand. So for fixed assets and their installation, that is called as fixed capital requirements. The one point you can write as that this in this case study, Sanjeev wants to develop the business plan, and his first point is that fixed asset and their installation is the first element. Here the questions are given. First, read out the questions. Identify the elements of financial plan discussed here. What are the elements here? Any one of you? What are the elements? What elements you can understand? What are the elements in the smallest case? First element I am telling you, fixed assets and their installation aspect, and what is the requirement of the financial resources for the fixed assets and their installations. Second element is that what is the preliminary expenses and how to manage them. Third important element is that what is the working capital requirement and how to procure the working capital through the short-term finances. Expenses on research and developmental activity. What is the research and development budget? How it is to be financed, and that is another important element here. Investment in short-term assets, that is called as current asset management. That is raw material, level of cash, etc. These are subcomponents of this particular element. So these are the various key elements. Then second question is that why it is important for entrepreneur to ensure the selection of the best overall mix. The second paragraph is talking about this one. To decide on the sources of funds for the venture, he tried to ensure the selection of the best overall mix of the financing of the enterprise. So in the first part, financial planning, it is related to fixed assets and their installation. So you can write as, for the purpose of fixed assets, we need to get a financial resources for the long-term financing. Because in the ratio analysis, you might have studied about that. It is 1:1. Debt equity ratio 1:1 is very much ideal. So ideal. So whenever we are talking about the fixed assets, all the fixed assets and their installation cost should be financed by the long-term borrowings, which require only interest payments and not anything else. The short-term aspects, that is working capital, expansion of research and development, investment in short-term assets, these must be financed by the short-term finances. So that is object, that is a list, that is called as a overall mix of financing position. So what is the ratio that is to be established? But lastly, you can write one conclusion sentence that always a case study must have a conclusion. The the best optimum overall financial mix will depend on the operating cycle. In the production management, we have studied about operating cycle concept. How much should be the raw material cost till next I sell the goods and finally when I will get money. How many days it will require? Like that, you can relate any of these MBA topics to the case study and you can analyze. There is no question of any exact answer for the case study. No one can say this should be the answer, this is correct. Like that, nobody can decide. Like that, you have to analyze. Right? Anything else? Unit number 3, that is entrepreneurship and economic development. Anyone? Share your ideas? Are you able to follow the class? మీరేం మాట్లాడలేదండి, కంటిన్యూస్ గా వన్ సైడ్ లిసనింగ్ అయిపోయింది. పోస్ట్ గ్రాడ్యుయేషన్ లెవెల్ అది కరెక్టేనా? ఇంటరాక్ట్ అవ్వాలి కానీ మీరు అట్లా జస్ట్ ఏదో వింటూ పోతే ఎట్లా చెప్పండి? మీరు ఇంగ్లీష్ అయినా పర్వాలేదు, తెలుగు అయినా పర్వాలేదు, మాట్లాడితే బాగుంటుంది. ఇక్కడ మనం అప్పుడే 2 యూనిట్స్ కంప్లీట్ చేసాం, 3rd యూనిట్ లోకి వెళ్తున్నాం. క్వశ్చన్స్ ఇస్తున్నాను, ఇంపార్టెంట్ క్వశ్చన్స్ చెప్తున్నాను, పారాగ్రాఫ్ వైజ్ గా రాయమని చెప్తున్నాను. కేస్ స్టడీ అనాలిసిస్ ఒకటి మీకు శాంపిల్ కేస్ స్టడీ ఇచ్చాను. ఎక్కడ మీ కాంట్రిబ్యూషనే ఉండట్లేదు క్లాసుల్లో. ఇట్లయితే ఎట్లా ఉంటుందండి క్లాసు? చెప్పండి. మోటివేషనల్ ఫ్యాక్టర్స్ ఉండాలి కదా క్లాసులో. మీరు ఎక్స్చేంజ్ ఆఫ్ వ్యూ, అసలు ఎంబీఏ అంటేనే మీరు మాట్లాడగలగాలి. ఎస్, ఎనీ వన్ ఆఫ్ యూ ఆర్ యూ ఏబుల్ టు ఫాలో ద క్లాస్ ఫస్ట్?
Yes, sir. We are following.
You are following. But when I am asking about the case study also, you are not responding anything. Unless you share your idea, there is no meaning in discussing the case study. Okay, right. So now we will go by unit number 3, that is entrepreneurship development and economic development. So here in this way, who is creating economic development? What is economic development actually? That is development of the entire economy. So what is economy? Again, industries, production process, how best you are able to utilize natural resources, and so on. Economy is also a composition of the various factors of the production. How best you are able to utilize raw material, how best you are able to utilize the labor component and all, how you are able to generate wealth. That's all. Economically developed countries, we say that US is economically developed. How we are talking about economical development, economic development. So economic development basically studied about macroeconomic and microeconomic aspects. So whenever the industries are fully flourished, or whenever industries are able to make good profits, or how many people are turning to become an entrepreneur, these are the various. What is the gross national production? What is GDP, gross domestic product? What is NNP, net national product? What is per capita income? These are all various factors and parameters which will judge the economic development of any country. So how this one entrepreneurship and economic development is? If more the number of people become entrepreneurs, automatically it leads to the economic development of the country. Entrepreneur is the key for the creation of the new enterprise that energize the economy and rejuvenate the established enterprises that make up the economic structures. What is economic structure? Every business form is an economic structure. Thus, entrepreneurs play a key role in the development of the nation. So, we are talking about this aspect. So, in the recent 5 years, we are having 2-3 notions. Make India, that is make in India. So, every product must be manufactured in India only. We are not supposed to depend on foreign countries. No imports, only exports. Like that, if you are able to produce whatever you require on your own in a country, that is nothing but economic development. So, what we have to understand is that whatever the items that require in our country, we must be able to produce and use that products only. This is actually started by Gandhiji only, that is called a Swadeshi movement. Reduce the dependence on the foreign country. That is all created. Now it is in turn make in India. That is all various slogans that are coming. Even right from a matchbox to rocket technology, we must be independent and we must be able to sustain with own Indian technical aspects only. So technological developments. So that is whenever a person becomes entrepreneur, he will be able to give employment to so many people. Then he will be able to use national resources better. And finally, when the untapped potentialities of the national resources are used to the maximum, then definitely it will create wealth for the country. These are the various important aspects that we have to remember, right? ఏం ఫోన్లు వస్తున్నాయో అర్థం కాదు, ఎక్కడి నుంచి వస్తున్నాయో కాల్స్. నెక్స్ట్, growth of the entrepreneurship in India during the pre-independence stage. So actually in the before independence and post-independence, how this one? Actually this question will appear as identify the entrepreneurship development as a pre-independence and post-independence, or explain the growth of entrepreneurship in India during pre-independence and post-independence. You can note down also, explain the growth of entrepreneurship in pre-independence and post-independence. Explain the growth of entrepreneurship during pre-independence stage and post-independence stage. In the very olden days before the independence, almost all the industries are named as village and cottage industries only. So village industries, they are very much located to that particular, produce and sell in that village only. So every village is self-dependence. Then cottage industries, very small scale industries which will talk about their own village, own usage. Then handicraft and artisan industries. Handicrafts, only handmade items. Then after this one, village industries, small scale industries, cottage industries and all, Karkhana system came into existence. Karkhana system came into existence. What is Karkhana system? Any one of you? What do you understand about a Karkhana system? Can you name any Karkhana which is there in the Hyderabad? Right. Karkhana system, Karkhana system basically talks about a single industry which is producing only single one output. Say for example, we are very much famous about Jinda Tirisman. That is Karkhana is area is that. So Karkhana Jinda Tirisman, that is only producing Jinda Tirisman single product. Actually, the system is developing about single product manufacturing. Then after the Karkhana system, village industries, cottage industries, handicraft and small scale industries, artisan industries, then it came as Karkhana. Karkhana system is multidimensional. Then after this one, establishment of East India Company came into existence. When East India Company established its business in India, that is very known to us. So that is established by British government. Then company form of business came into existence. When company form of business came into existence, it started taking funds from the general public, do the business and take away the profits. In those days, profits are used for their country's development. That is known to us. And relative importance to community-based industries. So many industries are based on community-based. So don't feel otherwise. There is Gujarati industries, Marwadi industries, like the religious-based industries are very, very common in those days. And lastly, a little bit effort is made towards the industrial estate. So industrial estate is the areas where a specific type of industries or a group of industries are established in that particular area. So these are the key aspects in the case of the pre-independent. Next, growth of entrepreneurship during post-independence. That is, managing system agency came into existence. Managing system agency is one where promoter is different from the manager. Say a person who is having a financial background, he will set up an industry, but he don't manage. He will establish a specialized agency for the purpose of running the business in a successful manner. So managing agencies are appointed and they will run the business. And once even running the business, not only running the business, for establishment of the business also, managing agencies are established. The managing agencies basically are the systems which will try to establish a good and sound business organization, run it profitably, and again hand over to the either proprietor or to someone else. Again, this managing system taken, the managing agency system, again it will take up another business form. Like that it will be considered. Then after the managing system, the government has to through important measures through the industrial resolutions. So during the post-independence, because of Jawaharlal Nehru's initiative, we are already known about, we are very much well known about the industrial policies. 1947, after 1947, there are so much of industrial, 1956 industrial policy resolutions, 1961 industrial policy, 1970s. For every 5 years, 5-year plans we have read in the very 10th class level itself. To maintain that 5-year plans and industries policies are brought out for the purpose of development of the industries. To maintain a proper distribution of economic power between the private and public sector. In those days, immediately after the independence, public sector industrial undertakings are very high. Every product is produced only in the government control. So that is why ECIL, Electronics Corporation of India Limited, Bharat Heavy Electricals Limited. So like that, these are all HCL, Hindustan Cables Limited. So Hindustan Aeronautic Limited, like that, various aspects are various firms are almost all the firms are there in the public sector, government control, and thereby almost all the power is strictly in the hands of the government sector only in those days. But later on, private sector participation is also allowed. Then to encourage tempo of industrialization by spreading entrepreneurship from the existing centers to the other centers, towns and villages. Industrialization by spreading entrepreneurship, not only in one area, all the industries have to be established in various areas, various centers, and so on and so forth. Then lastly, third important point is that disseminate the entrepreneurship acumen, concentrate in a few dominant communities to a large number of industries, potential people varied about a social strata. In those days, the business is closely closely in the hands of a few religious sections. Say, for example, Gujarati, Marwadi business. Like this, separate sections are made out. Then, so basically, this type of religious-based sectorization that is almost reduced, and everybody is having equal possibility to start up enterprise. So that is called a dissemination. Entrepreneurship concern few dominant communities to a large number of industrially potential people. Whoever is potentially sound enough to whoever is sound enough to start up enterprise, they are allowed to start up a good enterprise. So these are the three important aspects that are taken by the government in these areas. Right? First one, managing system. This is very, very important. Sometimes you may have a question, explain the growth of entrepreneurship during post-independence. నార్మల్ గా ప్రీ ఇండిపెండెన్స్ పోస్ట్ ఇండిపెండెన్స్ అంటే చాలా ఎస్ఏ క్వశ్చన్ అవుతుంది. మీకు 10 మార్క్స్ కి ఇట్లా వచ్చేటప్పుడు మీకు ఇక్కడ పోస్ట్ ఇండిపెండెన్స్ ఎక్కువ అడిగే అవకాశం ఉంటుంది. ప్రీ ఇండిపెండెన్స్ లో తక్కువ ఉంటుంది, ఎందుకంటే అప్పుడు అన్ని కూడా ప్రీ ఇండిపెండెన్స్ అంతా కూడా బ్రిటిష్ గవర్నమెంట్ రూల్ కాబట్టి పోస్ట్ ఇండిపెండెన్స్ సెనారియో ఎక్కువగా మనకి స్టడీ చేయడానికి అవకాశం ఉంటుంది. సో దీంట్లో మీరు ఏం చేయాలి, 3 పాయింట్స్ బేసిక్ గా గుర్తుపెట్టుకోవాలి. ఒకటి మేనేజింగ్ సిస్టమ్, రెండోది గవర్నమెంట్ ఇనిషియేటివ్ టువర్డ్స్ ద ఎస్టాబ్లిష్మెంట్ ఆఫ్ ద ఇండస్ట్రీస్. రైట్? అట్లా మీరు పారాగ్రాఫ్ వైజ్ గా మెయింటైన్ చేసుకుని ద పాయింట్స్ నోట్ చేసుకుని రాస్తే ఈజీగా మీకు ఈ సబ్జెక్ట్ మీద గ్రిప్ ఉంటుంది. సో దిస్ ఈస్ వాట్ ఐ వాంట్ టు గివ్ ఏ క్లారిటీ అబౌట్ ఇన్ ద యూనిట్ నెంబర్ 3 about entrepreneurship and economic development. So now in this, the very, very important crucial aspects what you have to learn is that explain the growth of entrepreneurship during post-independence, during the post-independent phase. How the entrepreneurship helps towards economic development. So that's all. The same question, answer will be the same, but questions will be different. Different types in different types the question may be asked about. Or explain the role of entrepreneurship towards economic development during the post-independence. Like that, anyway you can design, anyway you can get a question, but try to concentrate on this aspect on this slide. Right? Are you able to follow this one?
Yes, sir.
Right, Amma. Explain the various types of business risks. Explain the various types of business risks. Explain various types of business risks. In this case, explain various types of business risks. First one, economic risk. What are various economic risks are there? So, economic risk is basically, don't feel that it is money only. Economy is not money only. Economy has so many aspects which are to be understood. So, economic conditions in a country. What are economic conditions? Country's economic position. That is how much it is able to produce, how much it is able to sell, what all the various aspects you have studied in economy, that is the business economics, they are nothing but the economic conditions. Macroeconomic aspects like recession, boom period, then business cycles. These are all economic aspects only. Anything which is risk related to these conditions are called as economic risks. So software industry is now facing a recession. So all the software companies, they are in trouble today. So at the same time, every country will face a recession at a one moment of time, one or the other moment of time. So what is the present condition of the country? That is to be studied basically, which is having economic risk. Second is market risk. Whenever we are talking about market risk depending on the market position, what type of market position you are having and how it is affecting your business aspect. So whenever we are talking about market position, how much of sales it can absorb, how much of production it can absorb, at what price you can sell, and what is the demand condition. So how much of the goods that you can sell, and what is the supply, at what price you can supply the goods, and changes in the consumer taste and preferences. Nowadays, there is a continuous change in the customer preferences, lifestyles, etc. These are all put together known as market risk. Then coming to the third one, that is financial risk. Unless these sources are properly, unless these sources of finance, actually, the word of finance is missing. Sources of finance. Sources of finance are properly available. It would be very difficult to run the business. Actually, you all know that finance is the lifeblood of the business. Unless no financial resources, nobody can run any sort of business activity. So you must have a sound financial background to accommodate. Just now we discussed the case study also the same aspect. So you must have appropriate resources for the development of the capital structure, which is comprising of long-term capital and short-term capital, working capital, and so on. These sources of finance basically subdivided into two. What are they? Sources of finance, long-term sources, short-term sources. Long-term sources are to be used for the purpose of financing the long-term assets. Long-term assets which are known as fixed assets and etc. Short-term financial resources, they are to be used for the purpose of financing the working capital, cash, etc. and various other aspects related to availability of the cash and so on. They are all comes under the financial aspect. So financial risk is that if any of the sources of finance are not properly used or it is not properly available, it is very difficult to run the business for. In addition to the availability of the capital, the cost of capital is also important because the profitability of the business depends on the cost of the funds borrowed from the outside. So what is cost of capital? In the financial management, you have understood about the word cost of capital. Cost of capital is the amount that is to be paid out for the purpose of using the funds. You have taken a bank loan. Let us assume, as an entrepreneur, you took a bank loan. Say, for example, 10 lakhs. Whatever the interest you are paying, that is called as cost of capital. You are borrowing from your friend. Whatever the interest you are paying, that is also a cost of capital. For example, then you will have a doubt. What is the cost of capital for equity? What is the cost of capital for equity? Any one of you? I repeat the question. What is the cost of capital for equity? Ownership equity.
A share value.
Cost of capital. What is paid out?
Dividends.
Dividend. 100% correct. Good. Dividends are the cost of capital for equity. In the same way, so if we say that in the same way, debentures, then it's okay. What is preference dividend for the preference shareholder? Like that, the cost of capital is an important element. If the cost of capital is becoming more and more, then your operational profit, I am using a technical word here, operational profit. What is operational profit? That is called as gross profit minus operating expenses, that is net profit. Finally, if your net profit is not sufficient enough to meet the cost of capital of the resources, you will be held up at loss even though you are having good gross profit, good net profit. Finally, whatever the dividends you are paying, అంటే ఏం చేస్తున్నారు అనమాట, మీరు ఒక దగ్గర ఫైనాన్స్ తీసుకొస్తున్నారు, వాటిని బిజినెస్ చేస్తున్నారు, వచ్చిందంతా కూడా డివిడెండ్స్ రూపంలో షేర్ చేసేస్తున్నారు, మీకు ఫ్యూచర్ డెవలప్మెంట్ కి ఫండ్స్ ఉండవు, అక్కడ మీకు ప్రాబ్లం అరైజ్ అవుతుంది. సో an entrepreneur must be able to balance between how much cost of capital he is paying out, how much of the resources he is getting out there. That is basically effect to the profitability. And మీకు ఇంకొకటి కూడా మీకు తెలిసే ఉంటుంది, రిటైన్డ్ ఎర్నింగ్స్ అంటాం, రిటైన్డ్ ఎర్నింగ్స్. సో every company, almost all the companies, they don't pay out all 100% of profits to the shareholder. They will retain, and at one point of time they will share to the profit, to the shareholder. These are the one financial risk. Then operational risks. What do you mean by operational risk? Risk arising in the process of carrying out the various operations. Operations here basically talk about the trading operations, that is selling, business processing, purchasing, and production process and so on. Actually, during these operations, if your sales is high, but your cost of operations is very high, automatically you will incur losses. So then, lastly, coming to this one, we are reaching almost 650. So credit risk. So what is the credit risk? The availability of the credit from the lenders is also very, very important. So how much is the availability of the funds? That is very, very important issue. So every firm must have some sort of credibility. So if you are not having a lender, then it is very, very difficult to run the business. So here, the credit risk is not available. The availability of the credit from the lenders is very, very important. If you want to buy on cash, whenever you are buying raw material, buy the raw material on credit. Then, అంటే ఏంటన్నమాట, ఇప్పుడు మనం పే చేయం, ఇవాళ మనం మెటీరియల్ తెప్పిస్తాం, 3 months production process, after that we will sell, then we will pay back. That is called as credit facility for the particular person. So if nobody is giving you the credit, that means nobody is lending you anything about that. So then it will become a credit risk. And lastly, international risks are very, very important factors. So what all, if you are doing any export sort of business, that is what anybody can give, what is the international risk? Any one example at least. One example. కొంచెం పార్టిసిపేటివ్ గా ఉంది. ఏమని చెప్పండి. One example for the international risk.
Foreign exchange.
Dollar fluctuations అండి. What is there? Fluctuations in the dollar market.
Exchange.
Foreign exchange. Yes, correct. Foreign exchange risk. Foreign exchange risk is there. Inflation, that is also there. Inflation risk is a non-international risk actually. So like that, whenever we are, right. So that is correct, exports. Then in these cases, international risks also will play a greater role in that. So whenever we are dealing with the foreign country, and there is a lot of subject on that in the international finance also. So how much you are paying out? If the dollar rate increases, automatically your payments will increase in case of imports. So like that, you must be able to face the international risks also. Then with that topic, we can, So, okay, thank you. So in the case of imports, you will have a risk about that. Whenever you are importing some sort of goods, your payments will be out. How much money you are paid out in the form of foreign currency, that is also very, very important aspect. So risks that are arising, these are the various types. And last concept, that is one, role of entrepreneurship in economic development. This is a standard question where almost all. So in this particular lesson, that is Unit 3, Entrepreneurship and Economic Development. Mostly you concentrate over post-independence stage, growth of economic development, types of business risks, and what is the role of entrepreneurship in economic development. Last question, this is a very standard question. If the paper is general paper, this question will be there for you to answer. So what is the role of entrepreneurship in economic development? Economic opportunities. This you can write it in general also. When the entrepreneurship is increasing day by day, automatically people turns to be an entrepreneur. So when one person became an entrepreneur, he can give employment to so many people. So that is the reason why I am strongly telling so much of people that don't depend or don't be in queue for the jobs before the employers. మనం చదువుకుంటున్నామంటే ఒక్క స్టడీయే కాదు, అసలు ఏమన్నా మనం ప్రొడ్యూస్ చేయగలుగుతాము, మనం ఎంటర్ప్రినర్ కాగలుగుతాం, ఒక ఆలోచన అయితే ఉండాలి. కాగలగడం కాలేకపోవడం దట్ ఇస్ డిఫరెంట్ మ్యాటర్. వెదర్ యూ కెన్ బికమ్ ఎన్ ఎంటర్ప్రినర్ ఆర్ నాట్, దట్స్ డిఫరెంట్ మ్యాటర్. యూ మే ఆర్ మే నాట్ బి. I can't become an entrepreneur, that is wrong. Shall I become an entrepreneur? That is correct. So try an opportunity. Try an opportunity. So like that, if one person became an entrepreneur, then so he can give employment opportunity to so many people. Again, they can generate the income. So like that. Second one, balanced regional development. What is the meaning of balanced regional development? Can anyone? Balanced regional development. Industries are developed. Industries are developed in the various areas. Sometimes industries are developed in the remote locations also. If a person establish industry in Mahbubnagar, the entire Mahbubnagar area will get developed. If a person establish in a remote village, that also will get developed. So that is called as regional development, local area development. That will happen with the help of entrepreneurship. Then coming to the mobilization of local resources. A person who is establishing enterprise, he will use mostly about the local resources only. Localized people or local area people. అంతే కదండి, లోకల్ ఏరియాలో ఉన్న వాళ్ళకి ప్రామినెన్స్ ఏమండి, లోకల్ ఏరియా డెవలప్మెంట్. దెన్ mobilization of local resources.
Make in India concept, sir.
Right. So then coming to the optimization of capital. So as a result of that, you can use optimum structures of the capital. That is what we discussed just now. Promotion of exports. So entrepreneur, if he becomes, yeah, right, make in India. That is also right. So when we are talking about this one, when we are talking about promotion of exports, entrepreneur will try to export goods. So in India, whether it is Lijat Papad or it is electronic components or electrical equipments, we are known for exports. Kashmir Shalwas, Kanpur Chappals, these are all known for export business. అక్కడ దాకా ఎందుకండి, ఎండుమిర్చి కూడా మనకి ఇండియా నుంచే ఎక్స్పోర్ట్ అవుతున్నాయి. సో ఎవ్రీ ప్రొడక్ట్ వీఆర్ ఎక్స్పోర్టింగ్. సో కన్స్యూమర్ డిమాండ్స్ ఆల్సో will be more, and all the demands of the customers will get satisfied. Social advantage also will be there. What all the social needs that can be satisfied. Then capital form, increase of per capita income. Just now we discussed about how much is the per capita income for individual. What is it? India's per capita income versus America's per capita income. Compare. Then capital formation. Huge amount of capital is formed into that. So conversion of conversion of savings into capital. మనం ఇప్పటికి కూడా ట్రెడిషనల్ గా బ్యాంక్ లో వేసుకుంటున్నాం ఫిక్స్డ్ డిపాజిట్లు. సో హౌ మెనీ ఆఫ్ us, including me, how many of us are investing in share market? So when you are increasing your capital formation, that will give a good result. Growth of capital market, that is capital market operations are nothing but investment in shares, securities, commodities, and so on. Growth of infrastructure. So if a business is done, that is infrastructure. Development of trade. So trade development, economic integration is also possible. That is also aspect of inflow of foreign capital. When one entrepreneur, if he is able to export goods to the foreign country, that foreign currency will come into India, that will make more beneficial to that. With this unit, block 1 is complete. Then we are entering into block 2, that is theories of entrepreneurship. That is there in the page number 62. So thank you very much for this class. But we have taken a long time to complete this block 1. So in the next class, we will make a rush out of that second and third blocks. Right? Thank you. Any doubts from your side? Right. Bye. Right.